My name is Rebecca Morrison, and I'm 32 years old. The day I realized my family had been using me wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, casual, delivered with a shrug and a coffee cup in hand. But that moment, standing in my sister's doorway after a 10-hour drive, changed everything. Let me take you back to that Friday afternoon when my phone buzzed with a text from Natalie, my younger sister. Engagement dinner this Saturday at 6 p.m. You're coming, right? Red heart, I stared at the message, my heart swelling with excitement. Natalie was getting married. My baby sister, the one I'd helped raise after Mom got sick, was starting her own family. I didn't hesitate. I requested time off work, not easy in my job as a senior accountant at a demanding firm in Chicago. I packed my overnight bag, filled my car with gas, and mapped out the route to our hometown of Greenfield, Indiana. 10 hours. I'd driven it before, but never with this much anticipation. The drive was long. I left at 4 a.m. to beat traffic, watching the sunrise paint the highway in shades of gold and pink. I thought about Natalie's fiancé, Marcus, a guy I'd only met twice on video calls. He seemed nice enough, stable, kind. I'd mentally catalogued the gift I'd brought, a vintage photo album I'd been filling with pictures of Natalie and me growing up, along with a check for $2,000 tucked inside. Money I'd been saving for months. CTA. If this story resonates with you so far, please like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me share more stories like this one. I arrived at Natalie's townhouse at 5:45 p.m., my back aching from the drive, but my spirits high. I grabbed the gift bag from the passenger seat and walked up to her door, smoothing down my dress, a navy blue number I'd bought specifically for tonight. I wanted to look put together, like the successful older sister who had her life figured out. I knocked twice. Footsteps approached, and the door swung open. Natalie stood there in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, her hair in a messy bun. No makeup. Behind her, I could see Marcus on the couch, also in casual clothes, scrolling through his phone. The house was quiet. No music, no chatter, no smell of food cooking. "Rebecca," Natalie said, surprise flickering across her face. "What are you doing here?" My smile faltered. "The engagement dinner? You texted me yesterday. I drove straight from Chicago." She tilted her head, and I watched something shift in her expression. Not embarrassment, not guilt, but something closer to mild annoyance. "Oh, that. Yeah, we had it yesterday. Just immediate family, you know. Mom, Dad, Marcus's parents. It was really small." The words hit me like a slap. I stood there, gift bag in hand, 10 hours of highway still humming in my bones. "Yesterday," I repeated slowly. "Yeah, we decided to do it a day early. It was super last minute." She said it so casually, like she was explaining why she'd chosen one pizza topping over another. "We kept it really intimate. Just the parents." "But I'm your sister," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. Natalie shrugged. "I mean, yeah, but it was specifically for immediate family. You know how it is." I didn't know how it was. I didn't know how I could be considered anything other than immediate family. I was the one who'd helped her with homework when Dad was working double shifts. I was the one who'd co-signed her first apartment lease when her credit was shaky. I was the one who'd sent her money for textbooks, groceries, emergency car repairs, never asking for it back. Marcus glanced up from his phone, gave me a half wave, then returned to scrolling. "So you're not staying?" Natalie asked, already shifting her weight like she was ready to close the door. Something cold settled in my chest. "No," I said quietly. "I'm not staying." "Okay, cool. Safe drive back." She started to close the door, then paused. "Oh, but we're having a big party next month. You should totally come to that." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. I walked back to my car, set the gift bag on the passenger seat, and sat in the driver's seat for a full 5 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I started the engine and drove to a hotel 40 minutes away. I couldn't face another 10 hours on the road, not tonight. I checked into a Holiday Inn, went up to my room, and finally let myself cry. But here's what I didn't know in that moment. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern I'd been too blind, or too willing to see. And the real shock was still waiting for me, just 1 week away. The hotel room smelled like industrial cleaner and old carpet. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my navy dress, mascara streaked down my cheeks. My phone sat next to me, silent. No apologetic text from Natalie. No, we messed up, call from my parents. Nothing. I ordered room service, a burger I barely touched, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. 10 hours. I'd driven 10 hours because my sister invited me to her engagement dinner, and she'd had it without me. On purpose. The day before. Just immediate family. The words kept echoing. How was I not immediate family? I pulled up my text thread with Natalie, scrolling back through months of messages. A pattern emerged that I'd been too busy, too willing, to ignore. Hey Becca, can you send $200? My car registration is due and I'm short. Rebecca, I need help with my resume. Can you look it over tonight? Emergency. My landlord is threatening eviction. Can you loan me $800? I'll pay you back, I promise. I scrolled further. Not once had she paid me back. Not once had she asked how I was doing, whether I needed help, whether the long hours at my accounting firm were burning me out. Every conversation started with her needing something, and ended when I'd given it. I thought back to our childhood, trying to pinpoint when this dynamic had begun. We grew up in Greenfield, a small Indiana town where everyone knew everyone. Our parents, David and Ellen Morrison, ran a hardware store that barely kept us afloat. Dad worked constantly, and Mom got sick when I was 15 and Natalie was 11. Breast cancer. She survived, but those years of treatment drained our family in every way. I became Natalie's second mother. I was the one who packed her lunches, helped with her math homework, braided her hair before school. Dad was always at the store or visiting Mom at the hospital, so I stepped up. I didn't resent it. I loved my sister. I wanted to protect her from the fear and uncertainty that had swallowed our home. When I graduated high school, I got a full scholarship to Indiana University. But Mom was still recovering, and Natalie was only 14. Dad sat me down one night in our cramped kitchen and said, "Rebecca, I need you here. Just for a year or two. Until your mom's stronger." So I deferred my scholarship. I worked at the hardware store, at a local diner, wherever I could pick up shifts. I gave most of my earnings to Dad for bills. Natalie got to stay in dance classes, got new clothes for school, got a normal childhood. 2 years turned into 4. By the time I finally left for college at 22, I was exhausted. But I was determined. I worked full-time while taking classes, graduated with honors, and landed a job at a Chicago accounting firm. I rebuilt my life from scratch. Meanwhile, Natalie flourished. She went to college right on time, joined a sorority, studied marketing. Mom was in remission. Dad's store stabilized. They were fine. But they still called me when they needed money. "Rebecca, Natalie's sorority dues are higher than expected. Can you help? Rebecca, the store's HVAC system broke. We need $3,000. You're doing so well in Chicago, you won't even miss it." I sent the money. Every time. Because that's what family does, right? Sitting in that hotel room, I opened my banking app and started adding up the amounts I'd sent over the years. $2,000 here for Natalie's study abroad trip. $1,500 there for Dad's emergency repair. $500 for Mom's birthday gift to Natalie. $800 for Natalie's security deposit. The total made me nauseous. $47,300. Nearly $50,000, sent over the course of 10 years. Money I'd saved by living in a cramped studio apartment, packing sad desk lunches, skipping vacations. And for what? To be excluded from an engagement dinner because I wasn't immediate family? My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Heard you stopped by Natalie's. Sorry you missed the dinner. It was very last minute. Love you. No explanation. No acknowledgement that I'd driven 10 hours. Just a breezy, sorry you missed it. Like I'd been running late to a casual coffee date. I typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, yeah, I guess I misunderstood. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and felt something shift inside me. A door closing. A light switching off. The next morning, I checked out early and drove back to Chicago. 10 hours again, this time in silence. No podcast, no music. Just the hum of the highway and my own thoughts. When I got back to my apartment, my small, carefully budgeted apartment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to send angry texts. I wasn't going to demand apologies. I was just going to stop. Stop being available. Stop sending money. Stop being the person they only remembered when they needed something. The week that followed was quiet. I threw myself into work, caught up on projects I'd been neglecting. I went to a yoga class. I had coffee with a colleague I barely knew. I started to remember what it felt like to prioritize myself. And then, exactly 1 week after I'd stood in Natalie's doorway, my phone rang. It was Natalie. I stared at her name on my screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button. But curiosity won. I answered. Rebecca. Her voice was frantic, higher pitched than normal. Oh my God, I'm so glad you picked up. We have a huge problem. I waited. The house has no electricity. No water. We tried to shower this morning and nothing came out. And the Wi-Fi is gone. Marcus needs it for work. I called the utility companies and they said our accounts are, like, months overdue. They shut everything off. I stayed silent. Rebecca, are you there? I'm here, I said calmly. Okay, so I know you're mad about the dinner thing, and I'm sorry, I really am. But this is an emergency. Did you send the money? My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. What money? The money for the utilities. I texted you last month. I said we were having trouble with bills and asked if you could help. You always help. I scrolled back through our texts. There it was, a message I'd apparently overlooked during a busy work week. Hey, things are tight this month. Can you send $1,200 for bills? Would be a lifesaver. I'd seen it. And for the first time in 10 years, I'd ignored it. Natalie, I said slowly, I didn't send the money. What? Why not? I felt something crack open inside me. Not anger, exactly, but clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity. Because, I said, keeping my voice level, it's only for family. Remember. Silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end. What are you talking about? She finally said. Immediate family, I clarified. The kind you invite to engagement dinners. The kind you celebrate with. The kind you actually care about beyond their bank account. Rebecca, that's not. I drove 10 hours to be there for you, I interrupted, my voice shaking now. 10 hours. Natalie. And you looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't immediate family. So I'm just following your lead. You're being ridiculous. That dinner was only for family, I repeated. Your words, not mine. Another silence, longer this time. So you're seriously not going to help us? Her voice had shifted from frantic to cold. After everything? The audacity of that phrase, after everything, almost made me laugh. After everything? I echoed. After I deferred college to take care of you? After I sent you nearly $50,000 over the years? After I drove 10 hours to celebrate with you, only to be turned away like I was a door-to-door salesman? I didn't ask you to do any of that, she snapped. And there it was. The truth she'd probably believed all along. You're right, I said quietly. You didn't ask. I offered. Because I thought that's what sisters did. I thought we took care of each other. But I was wrong. This whole time, I've been an ATM with a heartbeat. And I'm done. Rebecca. Figure out your utilities on your own. Ask Mom and Dad. Ask Marcus's parents. Ask anyone you consider immediate family. But don't ask me. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. My entire body was shaking. But underneath the adrenaline, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if Natalie would call back, if my parents would get involved, if there would be screaming arguments or silent treatments. All I knew was that I had finally chosen myself. And the fallout was about to be bigger than I ever imagined. The silence after I hung up on Natalie lasted exactly 43 minutes. Then my phone exploded. First came a text from Mom. Natalie called me very upset. What's going on? Why won't you help with their utilities? That's not like you. Then Dad. Rebecca, your sister is in a real bind. Can't you just send the money and work this out later? Then Natalie again, this time via text. I can't believe you're doing this. Marcus and I are struggling and you're being petty over one misunderstanding. I set my phone face down on my coffee table and stared at it like it might explode. One misunderstanding. That's what she was calling it. Not a pattern of being taken for granted. Not years of one-sided support. One misunderstanding. I picked up my phone and opened a group text with Mom, Dad, and Natalie. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. Let me be clear. I'm not being petty. I'm setting boundaries. For 10 years, I've been the person you call when you need money, help, or labor. But when it came time to celebrate Natalie's engagement, something I drove 10 hours for, I wasn't important enough to include. You made it clear where I stand. So from now on, I'm only participating in relationships where I'm valued beyond what I can provide financially. This isn't negotiable. I hit send and immediately turned off my phone. The next few days were strange. Quiet. I went to work, came home, cooked actual meals instead of grabbing takeout. I reorganized my closet. I finished a novel I'd been reading for 3 months. It felt like I was learning to breathe again. But on Wednesday, there was a knock on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. Mom. I opened the door slowly. Ellen Morrison stood in the hallway, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair had more gray in it now, and she was wearing the cardigan I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. Mom, I said. What are you doing here? Can I come in? I stepped aside. She entered my small apartment, the one she'd never visited, despite me living here for 8 years, and looked around like she was cataloging evidence. Coffee? I offered. No, thank you. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap. Rebecca, we need to talk about this situation with Natalie. I remained standing. There's nothing to talk about. I explained my position clearly. You're being unreasonable. Her voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. Natalie made a mistake with the dinner. She knows that now. But refusing to help her when she's in genuine need? That's cruel. Cruel, I repeated, tasting the word. What was it when I deferred college for 4 years to help this family? Was that cruel? That was different. We needed you then. And you don't need me now? Then why are you here? Mom's face tightened. You're twisting things. We've always appreciated what you've done. But family helps family. That's how it works. I felt something sharp twist in my chest. Family also includes family. Family celebrates together. Family doesn't categorize one daughter as immediate and the other as, what? Extended? Optional. It was a small dinner, Mom said, her voice rising slightly. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then let me ask you something. I sat down across from her. Did you know I was driving 10 hours to be there? She hesitated. Natalie mentioned you might come. Did you tell her to wait? To include me? Did you question why your daughter was having an engagement dinner without her only sister? Silence. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Mom's expression shifted to something harder. Rebecca, I didn't drive 3 hours to be interrogated. Your sister's utilities are shut off. Marcus might lose his remote job without internet. They need $1,200 to get everything turned back on. You have a good job. You can spare it. Can I? I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed her the transaction history. Look at this, Mom. Really look. $47,000. Sent over 10 years. Money I earned by working 60-hour weeks, living in this tiny apartment, skipping vacations, avoiding relationships because I was too exhausted to date. She glanced at the screen, then away. No one forced you to send that money. The words landed like a punch. You're right. No one forced me. I chose to help because I thought that's what family meant. But here's what I'm realizing. You all were perfectly happy to take my money, my time, my support. But the moment I needed something? The moment I wanted to be included, celebrated, valued? I wasn't worth the inconvenience. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, a brittle sound. When I was 22 and wanted to leave for college, Dad asked me to stay. Just 1 more year, he said. We need you. I stayed for. When did anyone ask what I needed? Mom stood up, her jaw tight. I came here hoping we could resolve this like adults. But I see you're determined to play the martyr. I'm not playing anything. I'm done being a doormat. She walked to the door, then turned back. When Natalie and Marcus lose their home because they can't pay basic bills, that'll be on your conscience. After she left, I sat in the silence of my apartment and cried. Not sad tears, but angry ones. Frustrated tears. Because even now, even after everything, part of me wanted to give in. Part of me wanted to send the money just to make the guilt stop. But I didn't. 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Rebecca Morrison. A woman's voice. Professional. Speaking. This is Jennifer Chen from the Indiana Department of Family Services. I'm calling regarding a complaint filed by Ellen Morrison, your mother. My blood went cold. A complaint. She's alleging financial abuse and neglect of your younger sister, Natalie Morrison Hayes. She claims you've been withholding financial support that was promised, causing them severe hardship. I couldn't speak for a moment. Financial abuse? I'm the victim here. Ma'am, I'm not making any determinations. I'm simply investigating the complaint. Can you tell me about your financial relationship with your sister? I spent 30 minutes explaining everything. The years of support, the engagement dinner, the pattern of being used. Jennifer listened, asked questions, took notes. And do you have documentation of these transfers? She asked. Every single one. Bank statements, text messages, everything. Please send those to the email I'm about to give you. Based on what you're telling me, this doesn't sound like abuse. It sounds like a family dispute. But I need to complete my investigation. After the call ended, I sat staring at my phone, numb. They'd reported me to social services. My own mother had tried to weaponize the state against me for setting boundaries. That night, I compiled everything. Bank statements showing every transfer, text messages showing every request, emails proving the engagement dinner situation. I sent it all to Jennifer Chen with a detailed timeline. 3 days later, she called back. Ms. Morrison, I've reviewed your documentation. The complaint has been dismissed. What your family did, filing a false report, is actually punishable, though we rarely pursue charges in family disputes. I'd recommend limiting contact with them and documenting any further harassment. Thank you, I managed. For what it's worth. Jennifer's voice softened. You did nothing wrong. Setting boundaries isn't abuse. It's self-preservation. That night, I blocked my parents' numbers. I blocked Natalie's number. I blocked everyone who'd spent the last 2 weeks texting me variations of, "How could you?" and "Family is forever." I sat alone in my apartment, the same small space I'd lived in for 8 years while funneling money to my family, and felt something I hadn't felt in a decade: peace. The healing wouldn't happen overnight. I started therapy the following week, unpacking years of codependency and misplaced guilt. I learned words like enmeshment and parentification. I learned that what I'd thought was love had actually been exploitation dressed up in family obligation. 3 months after that phone call with Natalie, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Rebecca. Marcus left me. Turns out he was only with me because he thought my family had money, that you were bankrolling us. When the money stopped, he found someone else. Mom says I should have tried harder to keep him. Dad says I'm an embarrassment. Nobody asks if I'm okay. I finally understand what you were trying to tell me. I'm sorry. For everything. I don't expect you to forgive me. I probably don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what we did to you. Nat. I read the letter 3 times, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday we'd rebuild something new, something healthier. But that day wasn't today. Today I was learning to be my own family. To value myself the way I'd valued everyone else. To understand that love without reciprocity isn't love, it's just donation. I opened my laptop and booked a flight to Iceland. A vacation I'd been postponing for 6 years. The money I would have sent to Natalie went into the trip fund instead. As I clicked purchase, I thought about that moment in Natalie's doorway, the moment that had broken me and freed me in equal measure. Only for family, she'd said. She was right. From now on, my resources, my time, my money, my energy, would be only for family. Real family. The kind I chose. The kind that chose me back. And maybe, eventually, that could include the Morrisons again. But they'd have to earn it. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this from your own family? Have you been the one who always gives, only to realize you're not truly valued? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest person to protect is ourselves from the people we love most. 6 months after I blocked my family's numbers, I stood on a black sand beach in Iceland, watching the northern lights dance across the sky in ribbons of green and purple. The wind cut through my jacket, sharp and cold, but I didn't move. I just stood there, breathing in the salt air, feeling more present in my body than I had in years. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, old habits kicked in, that familiar jolt of anxiety, the automatic assumption that someone needed something. But then I remembered. I'd changed my number 3 months ago. Only my closest friends and my therapist had it. Whatever this notification was, it wasn't an emergency manufactured to manipulate me. It was just a text from my friend Priya. How's Iceland? Send pics. And remember, you deserve this trip and so much more. Proud of you. Red heart. I smiled and typed back. It's magical. I'm magical. Learning to believe that. The journey to this beach, to this moment of genuine peace, hadn't been straightforward. Those first few months after cutting contact were harder than I'd expected. Not because I regretted my decision, but because deprogramming yourself from a lifetime of conditioning is brutal work. Therapy became my anchor. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to the social worker, just an odd coincidence, helped me understand the dynamics that had shaped my family relationships. She introduced me to terms I'd never heard before. What you experienced is called parentification, she explained during one of our early sessions. You were forced into an adult caretaker role as a child. That's not your fault, Rebecca. Children don't choose that. It's imposed on them by circumstances or by parents who can't or won't protect them from adult responsibilities. But my mom was sick, I protested. Someone had to step up. Yes, someone did. But that someone should have been another adult. Your father, an aunt, a family friend. Not a 15-year-old girl who needed her own childhood protected. The words cracked something open inside me. I cried for 3 sessions straight after that, grieving the adolescence I'd never had. The sleepovers I'd skipped to watch Natalie. The college experiences I'd deferred. The relationships I'd never pursued because I was too exhausted from holding everyone else together. Dr. Chen also helped me see how the pattern had continued into adulthood. Your family learned that you were the solution to their problems, she said. And you learned that your value was tied to what you could provide. That's not love, Rebecca. That's a transaction. So what is love? I asked, genuinely confused. If love wasn't sacrifice, wasn't putting others first, wasn't giving until it hurt, what was it? Love is reciprocal, she said simply. It flows both ways. Real love doesn't drain you. It replenishes you. Real love celebrates you even when you have nothing to give. I thought about that a lot in the months that followed. I started to notice how my real friends behaved versus how my family had. When I told Priya I couldn't afford a group dinner, she suggested a potluck at her apartment instead. When I was sick with the flu, my colleague Jordan dropped off soup and medicine without expecting anything in return. When I forgot my work friend Melissa's birthday, she laughed it off and said, "You're allowed to be human." These people didn't keep score. They didn't love me conditionally. They just loved me. The letter from Natalie stayed in my drawer, unopened for weeks after I'd first read it. I'd think about responding, draft messages in my head during my commute, but something always stopped me. Dr. Chen said I'd know when I was ready, if I was ever ready. Then, 4 months after the letter arrived, I got an email. From Dad. The subject line read, "Please read this." My finger hovered over the delete button. But curiosity, or maybe some stubborn hope I couldn't quite kill, made me open it. Rebecca. I've been doing some thinking since you cut off contact. Your mother doesn't know I'm writing this. She'd be furious if she did. She thinks you're being selfish and cruel, and honestly, for a long time I agreed with her. But I've been watching Natalie struggle since Marcus left, and I'm seeing things I didn't want to see before. She calls us constantly, expecting us to fix her problems. She gets angry when we can't give her money. She blames everyone but herself for how her life turned out. Yesterday she asked me for $3,000 for a business opportunity she couldn't explain. When I said no, she told me I was a terrible father. She said the same things to me that we all said to you. And I realized, we created this. We taught her that other people exist to solve her problems. We taught her that family is an ATM, not a relationship. And we taught you that your worth was measured in what you could give us. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry I asked you to defer college. I'm sorry I didn't protect your childhood when your mom got sick. I'm sorry I called you unreasonable when you finally stood up for yourself. You were never unreasonable. You were the only one in this family who had healthy boundaries. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to respond to this email. But I needed you to know, you were right. About all of it. And I'm ashamed it took me this long to see it. Your father, David. I read the email 4 times, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of relief or reconciliation. Not yet, but tears of validation. Someone from my family had finally acknowledged the truth. I didn't respond immediately. I sat with it. I brought the email to therapy and Dr. Chen and I dissected every word, examining my feelings without rushing toward forgiveness or reconciliation. What do you want, Rebecca? She asked. Not what you think you should want. Not what would make everyone else comfortable. What do you want? I thought about it for a long time. I want to know if he's changed because he actually understands what he did wrong, or because he's experiencing consequences and doesn't like it. That's wise, Dr. Chen said. And there's only one way to find out. Time, I said. Time, she agreed. So I waited. I didn't respond to Dad's email, but I didn't block him either. I left that door slightly open, not enough to let him back in, but enough to see if he'd prove himself consistent. Meanwhile, I kept building my new life. I got a promotion at work, the one I'd been too afraid to pursue because it meant less time to handle family emergencies. I started dating again, carefully, learning to recognize red flags and trust my instincts. I joined a book club and a hiking group. I made friends who knew nothing about my family drama, who liked me just for being me. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, I started to like me too. The girl who'd sacrificed everything for people who didn't appreciate it was transforming into a woman who understood her worth. I learned to say no without explaining or justifying. I learned that taking up space wasn't selfish. I learned that choosing myself wasn't abandonment, it was survival. Iceland was my reward to myself. A celebration of 6 months of sobriety from toxic family dynamics. As I stood on that black sand beach, I thought about how far I'd come. From the girl standing in Natalie's doorway, crushed and confused, to the woman standing here under the northern lights, whole and free. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from an unknown number. My heart rate spiked. Had someone tracked down my new number? But when I opened it, I saw it was from a local Icelandic number. The tour company confirming tomorrow's glacier hike. I laughed at myself. Not every notification was a crisis. Not every unknown number was a threat. I was safe. I was free. I was learning to trust that the ground beneath me wouldn't collapse. That night, back at my hotel in Reykjavik, I finally opened my laptop and responded to Dad's email. I'd been composing it mentally for weeks. Dad, I received your email. Thank you for the apology. It means more than you know to have someone finally acknowledge what happened. But I need you to understand something. An apology isn't the same as change. Words are easy. Accountability is hard. If you really mean what you said, here's what I need to see. 1. Therapy. Not couples counseling with mom to fix me. Individual therapy for you to understand your role in this family dynamic. 2. Boundaries with Natalie. Stop enabling her. Stop bailing her out. Let her experience consequences so she can grow. 3. Time. I need to see consistent change over months, maybe years, before I consider rebuilding a relationship. 4. Respect for my decision. If I choose to stay low contact or no contact permanently, that's my right. You don't get to guilt me or pressure me about it. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just careful. I've built a life I'm proud of, surrounded by people who value me. If you want to be part of that life, you have to earn it. I hope you understand. Rebecca. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The next morning, I hiked across a glacier with a group of international tourists. We were roped together for safety, moving carefully across the ancient ice. Our guide, a weathered Icelandic man named Baldur, pointed out crevasses hidden beneath snow bridges. The ice looks solid, he said, but underneath, there are hollow spaces. If you don't know where to step, you fall through. That's why we go together. That's why we use ropes. I thought about my family, about the hollow spaces beneath what had looked like solid ground. I thought about how I'd been walking carefully around those crevasses my whole life, trying not to fall through, trying to keep everyone else from falling too. But here on this glacier, I was roped to strangers who'd catch me if I fell. Not because they owed me. Not because I'd bought their loyalty. Just because that's what you do when you're connected to other humans in a dangerous place. That's what community was supposed to be. 3 weeks after I returned from Iceland, I got another email from Dad. This one included a receipt for his first therapy appointment and a screenshot of a conversation with Natalie where he told her he couldn't loan her money anymore, but he'd help her create a budget. Small steps, he wrote. But I'm trying. I didn't respond immediately, but I saved the email in a folder labeled, Maybe. Dr. Chen smiled when I told her about it. How does it feel? She asked. Weird, I admitted. I don't trust it yet. But it also feels possible. Like maybe there's a version of the future where we have some kind of relationship. A healthier one. And if that doesn't happen, then I'll be okay, I said. And I meant it. I have a family now, the one I've chosen. Priya, Jordan, Melissa, my book club friends. They're my people. If the Morrisons figure their stuff out, maybe they can join that. Circle someday. But if they don't, I'm not alone anymore. You were never alone, Dr. Chen said gently. You just didn't know how to find your people. She was right. For so long, I'd believed that family was something you were born into, something you endured, something you sacrificed for no matter the cost. But real family, the kind that nourishes you instead of draining you, is something you choose. Something you build. Something you protect. 5 months later, I got a package in the mail. Inside was the vintage photo album I'd made for Natalie's engagement, the one I'd left in my car that terrible night. There was a note attached in Natalie's handwriting. Rebecca. I'm in therapy now. Dad helped me find someone. It's hard. I'm learning things about myself I don't like. One of them is how much I took you for granted. I found this album in my storage unit. I don't know when you left it there, but I'm guessing it was the night of the engagement dinner. I looked through every page. All those photos of us as kids. You braiding my hair, helping with homework, teaching me to ride a bike. I never said thank you for any of it. I just expected it, like you were supposed to be my second mom forever. I'm not asking to be friends. I know I don't deserve that. But I wanted you to have this back. You put so much love into making it. It shouldn't be in my storage unit gathering dust. I hope you're happy. I hope you're finally living for yourself. I'm trying to become someone worthy of being your sister again. Even if that means from a distance. Love. Natalie. I held the album in my lap, running my fingers over the careful work I'd done, the captions I'd written, the photos I'd selected, the love I'd poured into every page. It hurt to look at, but it didn't destroy me. That was growth. I took a photo of one page, a picture of 10-year-old Natalie and 15-year-old me at a dance recital, both of us grinning, and sent it to Dr. Chen with a message. Look what came in the mail. I'm okay. Actually okay. She responded immediately. That's because you know who you are now. They can't take that from you anymore. She was right. I'd spent 32 years being defined by what I could give other people. But now, at 33, I was learning to be defined by who I was becoming. I put the album on my bookshelf, next to my Iceland photos and a framed quote Priya had given me. You can't pour from an empty cup. That night, I cooked dinner for friends, a small gathering in my apartment that didn't feel so small anymore. Priya brought wine, Jordan brought dessert, Melissa brought her infectious laugh. We ate and talked, and nobody needed anything from me except my presence. This was what it felt like to be valued. Not used. Not tolerated. Valued. As everyone was leaving, Priya pulled me aside. You know what I've noticed, she said. You smile more now. Like real smiles that reach your eyes. I feel lighter, I admitted. Like I've been carrying a boulder and I finally put it down. You didn't just put it down, Priya said. You threw it off a cliff. And you're better for it. After everyone left, I sat on my couch with a cup of tea, my phone beside me. No emergency calls. No guilt-tripping texts. No demands disguised as requests. Just peace. I didn't know if I'd ever fully reconcile with my family. Maybe Dad would continue his therapy and we'd rebuild something small and careful. Maybe Natalie would do the deep work and we'd find a new kind of sisterhood. Maybe Mom would wake up and realize what she'd lost. Or maybe none of that would happen. Maybe I'd continue forward with the family I'd chosen, the life I'd built, the peace I'd fought for. Either way, I'd be okay. Because I'd finally learned the most important lesson. The only person who had to be family to Rebecca Morrison was Rebecca Morrison herself. And I was done abandoning her for people who couldn't see her worth. I picked up my phone and opened my notes app, typing out something I'd been thinking about for weeks. I drove 10 hours to be excluded. But in that rejection, I found something more valuable than any engagement dinner. I found myself. And it turns out, I'm pretty good company. I smiled, saved the note, and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and keep building this new life. One boundary at a time. One no at a time. One moment of choosing myself at a time. The Northern Lights were just the beginning. There was a whole world out there waiting for me to explore, not as someone's ATM, not as the family fixer, but as Rebecca. Just Rebecca. And that was more than enough. What about you? Have you ever had to choose yourself over family expectations? Have you discovered that the family you choose can be stronger than the family you're born into? Drop your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to set boundaries and reclaim their life. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And you deserve to thrive, not just survive.